Welcome to Sports Talk with R and J. I am your host, Steve Risser, along with my co-host, Justin D'Onofrio. And again, another busy show. I mean, we got week 3 of the NFL. We got the baseball getting into the postseason. We got the college football, the SEC starting this week. Stanley Cup has begun. They're 2 games into that. But we got to start with the NBA. And last night, the Nuggets stayed alive. They got a big win over the Lakers, 114-106. They hung on, won the game. Jokic played well. Murray played well. The Porter played pretty well off the bench. They got a lot of contributions off the bench last night in that win. So they stay in this series. They're up 2-1. And I think the biggest difference with last night is they had another guy step up outside of Jokic and Murray. I think Jerry and Grant stepping up 26 points, that was key. Michael Porter playing well off the bench was key. And I tell you, a lot of people didn't give the Nuggets a chance in the series. I said this was a 6-game series because Jokic and Murray are really good players. Yes, the Lakers have the 2 best players in the series. They're probably going to win this series, but the Nuggets are going to stretch this. I think they stretch it to. I wouldn't be surprised they stretch it to 6 games.
I wouldn't be either. This is a good team, and a lot of people thought, for the Nuggets to start contending, they need that third guy, but, and I guess they've kind of got that, from a Porter, but having that third star, but they really, but they're right in the series. They could be up 2-1 if Anthony Davis doesn't hit that shot Sunday night.
I mean, I would argue there the Lakers would have more. I think if the Nuggets won on Sunday, the Lakers would have won last night, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. I would, if it was 1-1, LeBron probably would have taken himself last night. But anyways, it's been impressive. The Nuggets, they played well, and last night, too, it seemed every time the Lakers kind of got it to win it like 3-5, when they got it close, the Nuggets always went on a run to kind of push their lead back up to double digits. And I kind of liked seeing that from this team bouncing back from that tough loss on Sunday night. But yeah, this Nugget team's right in there, and I could definitely see them going 6-7 games.
Oh, absolutely. This is a really good Nugget team. It feels like it's a Nuggets team that feels better when they're behind. Down 3-1 to the Jazz, come back and win 4-3. Down 3-1 to the Clippers, come back and win 4-3. It seems like they're right where they want to be. But when you have clearly the 2 best players in the series in the NBA, I don't care what the situation is, you're probably not going to win that series. And I hate to say it, I think it's the case here.
Yeah, more than likely, especially when you got LeBron James you're going up against, especially a guy, if the Nuggets do tie this thing up at 2-2 or something, LeBron will be able to take over the series himself. So yeah, it will be a very tough task, but I feel like this Nuggets team too, when, I think when they get behind, they don't worry about it. I just think, even when they were back in the first, second round when they're down 3-1, I think the team just, okay, we got nothing to lose. Here we go. And especially in this series, nobody gave them a fighter chance to the Lakers. So they're just playing relaxed. They're just doing their thing, and they're hanging in there so far.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, really, in game 1, they got blown out, but the last 2 games, and then in game 2, it looked like they were getting blown out, but they came back, had that 1-point lead. Davis hit the game-winning 3, but they've really been competing in this series, and you got to give the Nuggets credit for that. I mean, but obviously, as we've said, the Lakers are still, in my opinion, going to win this series.
Yeah, I still got the Lakers in 6. I just, I think game 4, LeBron's going to have another big one. He'll put the Lakers up 3-1. I think the Nuggets will be able to one more, but that's about it. Again, it's a great sign for the Nuggets for the future, though.
Oh, without question. I mean, look at the Nuggets' future. I mean, you got Jamal Murray, you got Jokic, 2 top 15 players in the game, and then you got Michael Porter Jr., who's got potential to be a top 10. He just has potential to be their best player, which is crazy to think of. So the Nuggets' future is really, really bright, no matter what happens in the series.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about that, because Porter was supposed to be the first overall pick, and then, injuries hurt at Missouri, and he was the last pick in the lottery. So you pretty much got a number 1 overall pick at pick number 14 in the draft.
Yeah, that's just crazy to think of.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely. So we're going to move on to the other series in the Eastern Conference between the Celtics and Heat, and it's been a really, really competitive series. The first 2 games were really competitive. The Celtics had leads in both games. They you could argue they could have won both games, and they gave away those 2 games to the Heat, and then they came back Saturday night though. Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Kemba Walker, they all played. Jaylen Brown, they all played well. Got that win. And they're now it's 2-1 Heat. These are 2 very, very evenly matched teams. I had the Heat winning in 7. You got the Celtics winning in 7. So 2 really, really evenly matched teams. But here's the thing for the Heat. If the Heat want to win this series, I think Butler's got to score more than 20 points a game. He's been scoring a little bit. He's been making a difference, but he's got to score a little bit more. I think Butler's got to do a little bit more for the Heat. And for the Celtics, the big 3 just got to be consistent. The big 3 with Kemba, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum, they just got to be consistent. But this is such an evenly matched series that I can't see it going less than 6 games. I think it goes 7, but I can't see it going less than 6.
Yeah, I think this thing definitely goes 7. Yeah, the big, Tatum, Brown, Smart, Kemba had combined 72 points of the night. The Celtics tried to blow it. Seemed like, for a bit, the Heat started to kind of come back a little bit in the fourth quarter, but they held on. But yeah, it's been a very evenly matched series. And I agree with you on Butler because, Bam Adebayo has been playing unbelievable. It's 27 points, 16 rebounds of the night. Tyler Hero stepped up again with 22 points. Jay Crowder, who was shooting well, was only 2 for 10 the other night. So, they definitely do need Jimmy Butler because late in the game, that's the guy, obviously, they want to take the big shot. But, yeah, if he's able to kind of get up above 20, they're in good shape. And I think that, I still think, I still have the Celtics winning. I'll still take them. But also how evenly matched they are, I think the Heat's defense is better than the Celtics in what they do. And, and again, the Celtics team could possibly be up 3-0. They haven't, they finally kind of got through the adversity because they really haven't done that much in the bubble. We saw when Anobi hit that game winner with the Raptors, they kind of came back and had a pretty bad game. Game 2, the shouting at the locker room after the game. But they finally kind of bounced back from adversity and they're able to get a game.
Yeah, I think this is going to be – you got game 4 tonight. I think it's going to be a really competitive game. I think the Celtics win this one. I think the Celtics win tonight. But I do have the Heat win in the series, but I do think the Celtics win tonight. They had that issue, Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown in the locker room after game 2. I think they've resolved that issue. I think they're getting back on the same page. And I think the Celtics win tonight, but I definitely have the Heat win in the series.
Yeah, I'll take the Celtics tonight because I got them to win the series. So, I don't think they'd come back down from 3-1. So I definitely got to take them tonight to get the close win.
Yeah, I mean, it should be really interesting to see. I mean, these are probably, and let's just say this, these are probably the 2 best organizations in the NBA, the Heat and the Celtics. Yes, the Lakers have probably the best player in the league, but I think these are the 2 best organizations in the league. Seeing the way, the Celtics, got back after the big 3 left, they kind of, in 4 years, they were already in the conference finals. It's their 3rd trip to the conference finals in 4 years. Then you look at the Heat, when LeBron and D Wade and Bosh left, they continued to be a competitive team. They continued to be a playoff team. And now both these teams are on the verge of going to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, you're completely right. Both these 2 organizations are run great by their front office. Especially, what both teams have done at their stars have left. They've been able to still compete. And, Celtics trying to break the door now of trying to get back to finals. As you said, 3 out of the last 4 years, they've been in the conference finals.
Absolutely. It should be really interesting to see what happens tonight between those 2 teams. But we're going to talk a little bit about what happened on Friday and the MVP with Giannis winning this is the MVP for the 2nd year in a row over LeBron. And LeBron didn't get that many votes, and LeBron was not happy about it. He was really PO'd that he didn't get the MVP, and I think that's starting to fuel him a little bit. But Giannis wins the MVP for the 2nd year in a row. But here's the question: Giannis might be the MVP. But is he a better player than Kevin Durant or LeBron James? And even arguably Kawhi Leonard because of what happened last year in the conference finals. I'd say he's definitely not better than LeBron or Kevin Durant. If you just look at his overall game, yes, he's a great defensive player, but he does not have the ability to shoot from the perimeter that those 2 have. And I think that's the difference in between those 2, between him and those 2 players. And also, yes, he was and Joe put up the graph. He was back-to-back MVPs. But also another big thing with Giannis is what's happened in the postseason. Last year he had the 2-0 lead, and you could say yes, he hasn't had a great 2, but Chris Middleton is still a pretty good 2. He was an All-Star. Yes, Is Chris Middleton a little overrated? Absolutely, but he's still a pretty good two. But you can look at last year in the conference finals, up 2-0 on the Raptors. He loses that series to the Raptors, and then this year, yes, he got hurt in Game 3, but he lost those first 2 games to Miami. He got in that 0-2 hole, which probably decided the series for the Bucs. So Giannis is clearly a top 3, top 4 player in the game, but in my opinion, at this point, he's still not as good as LeBron, even at 35, and he's still not as good as Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. And I think it's the jump shot. If he can get a perimeter jump shot, it definitely makes him the top player in the game. But until he gets that consistent jump shot, he's going to have this problem because you can defend him off the 3-point line and you kind of help off him on the drive. And he's just, and, he's still a great player. It's in today's NBA, you need to have a 3-point shot.
Oh, absolutely. I thought you lost you there. Go ahead, Justin. I thought I lost you there.
Okay. All right. Sorry. You need to be able to shoot the basketball to be the best player in the NBA nowadays. You got to be able to have that jump shot. It's not really played around the paint anymore, and just being able, twos after two. He's a great player, but I think until he gets that jump shot, he's going to be behind LeBron and Durant, or until he gets that ring, until he gets that championship.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the championship's big. I mean, let me tell you, as the best player in the league, the championship's big. Because you look at LeBron, he's got 3 rings, could very easily win a 4th. You look at Durant, he has. Yes, I know they're with Steph Curry, but he has 2 rings. Giannis, he still has none. Yes, you could argue the number 2 hasn't been great, but these have been winnable Eastern Conferences here. Okay, the Eastern Conference last year, LeBron leaves. Yes, Kawhi's still in the East and beats him. This year was the most winnable for him because Kawhi leaves the conference. So you get 2 top 4 players leaving the conference in the last 2 years, and you couldn't get to, and you're supposed to be, this back-to-back MVP. No criticism. He's an outstanding player. You're supposed to be this, outstanding, this back-to-back, and win back-to-back MVPs. But you not only don't even win the championship, you don't even appear in the NBA Finals. So that is just I think Giannis is a great player. He's had some great years. But in terms of saying, is he the best player in the game? For me, no, because of, as just like we said, lack of 3-point shooting and lack of playoff success.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on both those points. Especially, Kawhi's gone, LeBron's gone. This was their Eastern Conference. Again, there's nobody at his level. Tatum's good, Butler's good, but they're not at his level. And this was his Eastern Conference. They had the best record. They had the 1 seed. And they just couldn't be able to finish it. And for the Heat series too, you could kind of just see that Heat were the better overall team than the Bucs too. And what kind of happened that series.
And let's be fair, Giannis did not play that well in Game 1. Let's be fair, he didn't play that well in Game 1. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and they got in a hole, and they never were able to rebound from that. And last year, they kind of went up 2-0, and the Raptors came back, and they weren't able to respond from that, and it hurt him, and until he gets that playoff success, he won't be better than LeBron or Kevin Durant.
Oh no, absolutely not. But still a great player, top 4 easily in my opinion. But he's not on that LeBron Durant tier for me. But we'll wrap up our NBA talk talking about a coaching move and Billy Donovan, who mutually parted ways with the Thunder. I'm not going to say fired. Sometimes usually I say fired when that happens, but mutually parted ways because of the direction that the Thunder were going. He is now the head coach of the Chicago Bulls, and I think this is a good hire for the Bulls. I think he's definitely clearly a better coach than Jim Boylan. I think this is a good hire. The Bulls got some talent. They got Zach LaVine, Wendell Carter. I think the Bulls got some talent there, and I think this is a good move for the Bulls going forward.
Yeah, I think there's a great hire for him. Zach LaVine, I heard, was very excited. I guess he was streaming or gaming at the time, and he was like, sounded very excited that they were gonna have Billy Donovan as the next head coach.
I know you like this hire. You're a big Billy Donovan guy. You picked the Thunder to win the series against the Rockets, which was almost a very good pick.
Yeah, I almost went out. But I think this is a guy in this Bulls organization. Been 8-9 years really. What Derrick Rose is there, and they're kind of getting back to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they really haven't had much success since he's left. And I think this is a guy that can kind of lead them back. I think we kind of saw it that Thunder team. You get these that Thunder team was not supposed to be very good. He got him to be able to go out there and compete game in and game out and to be a 5 seed in Western Conference playoffs is pretty remarkable. They got, the Bulls got some young pieces. So I think year or two, it could be, I could definitely see the Bulls being back, in the playoff picture in the Eastern Conference, which is just great for the NBA to have the Bulls be relevant.
Absolutely. I mean, you saw how many people loved The Last Dance, watching The Last Dance with Jordan and the Bulls. So yeah, and the Bulls used to be relevant back, from when Tom Thibodeau was there, and that was fun. I do like watching the Bulls when they're relevant. It's a big market team. It's an exciting team to watch when they're relevant.
Oh yeah, it is. Chicago loves their basketball over there, and yeah, it makes the NBA better because that big market Chicago. Is relevant and just the name the Bulls and what Jordan did there. So yeah, again, I think you give this guy a year or two to get a couple more pieces drafting wise, or maybe signing somebody. And I think the Bulls are going to be in a good spot.
Oh, without question. I'm really, really excited what Billy Donovan is going to do for the Bulls.
Yeah, same. I was hoping I knew it was no chance we were going to fire Luke Walton and hire Billy Donovan, but I knew the chance of that was 0.
Yeah, your Kings are a terrible organization. I mean, let's just say that. I mean, you take Marvin Bagley over Luka Doncic. That should just say it all.
Yeah, even though I was one that I wanted Bagley over Doncic, but
yeah, that's
now I'm very regretting that one.
That is a terrible pick there. Terrible pick. Yeah. But we got to go to the NFL. We got a ton of NFL news this week. And before we get into the games of the NFL, we got to get to the injuries. And obviously, we're starting with the injuries. We're going to start with my Giants, and we're going to start with Saquon Barkley. And unfortunately, I was watching the game on Sunday when he went down. I knew when he went down it was bad. At first, he went down and he hurt his ankle. Then he goes down, and then obviously it ends up being an ACL tear, and it was such a crushing blow as a Giants fan and for the Giants, and really for three reasons why it's such a crushing blow. Number one, it really gives them no shot to compete this year. They pretty much have no shot to compete this year. This is probably a 4 or 5 win team at best now without Saquon. I predicted they were a 7-win team, 7-9 team, maybe with a break here or there could compete for the NFC East. Now I'm thinking 4 or 5 wins for this football team. Number two, it hurts Daniel Jones' development. I mean, having a guy like Barkley in that offense is like Daniel Jones' best friend. I mean, he could do everything. I mean, he could run the ball, he could run routes. Now Daniel Jones doesn't have that, so that's going to hurt his development. And third, and this is the most important thing, is what do the Giants do with Saquon Barkley long term? This is such a hard, and I've been thinking about this all week. I've been going back and forth on this all week. There's no obvious way you can answer this question, because we all know this offseason he's going to want Christian McCaffrey money. After this ACL tear, there is no question he's going to want Christian McCaffrey money. But if you're the Giants, do you give a guy coming off an ACL or give a guy $17 million a year coming off an ACL tear? That is a really, really, really hard decision right there. Anybody else, if this wasn't a player at Saquon Barkley's level, there is no way possible I would give him all that money. But with Saquon Barkley, it is such a hard call. And the thing is, this couldn't happen at a worse time, because in the offseason he's going to ask for this kind of money. And it's going to be a very, very interesting thing to see what the Giants do, because when you had this number 2, you finished 3-13 in 2017. You desperately needed a quarterback. Eli Manning was done. You desperately needed a quarterback, but you took this guy because this guy was so good you couldn't pass on him. When you desperately needed a guy at the most important position, you took this guy because, as Dave Gettleman said, he was the gold jacket player. So that's why this decision is going to be so hard. And you really can't make a definitive call either way what the Giants do with Barkley. If this happens last year, okay, maybe he's not asking for the money. You could see how he comes off this injury. This year, the timing could not have been worse.
Yeah, it's a tough time, because I heard, I think it was Mike Tannenbaum was saying that really ACLs are kind of, for a running back like him that's so elusive and kind of uses kind of its cuts, this is like a 2-year rehab. to really get back to fully be Saquon Barkley, which I think makes the decision, even tougher if that's the case. He's such an elite running back. I don't understand why he got hurt, the ankle, and then the next play they gave it right back to him when he was already hurt, which I didn't understand, giving him a break there for a second. But it's tough because he is definitely one of the best backs in the game. And because it was an ankle injury last year. Now the ACL, it's tougher running back. I know the only thing is, without being out this whole year, you look at the one positive, it keeps him more fresh and he's getting less, contact on him. But that's really about all the positives here. It's such a tough move and such a tough call. And I think it really depends on where the Giants want to be headed. If they don't really want to, because right now is your best offensive weapon. You really got to improve that line too for them. But I don't know. The tough thing is, it's like you have to do it this offseason. You can't wait to see how he comes back.
He's going to want it. There's no way he's not going to not want money. He's going to want all this money this offseason. I am convinced of that. Convinced.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm with you. I think he will. And
now, obviously, Giants are definitely giving him the 5th-year option, but he's going to want that. He's going to want that long-term deal, or he's going to hold out a training camp. I guarantee you that's going to happen.
You think? I don't know if he's that type of guy.
Justin. He's the kind of guy that he wants his. I don't care if he's not that type of guy. He's going to want his money. I don't care what his personality is. A player that is this good wants this kind of money.
No, that is a good point. He probably will. It's just tough because he's definitely going to want this offseason. You can't really see how he comes back next season. It's so tough, and it's such a tough spot to put Gettleman in. And even for, Joe Judge, that, 2 games in and you already lost your best player. It's such a tough call. I'm kind of leaning, you got to keep, because I don't know what some Giant fans are going to do if they don't re-sign Barkley. I
bet you someone like Joe might stop being a fan because he did the same thing with he almost did the same thing with OBJ. You never know.
Yeah, I know, and that and I think Barkley's definitely a better player than OBJ is. So
I agree. Yeah.
It's such a tough call, but it's so devastating to see a guy like this, and especially the Giants offense. I heard Sterling Shepard did one on the IR today too. So
yeah, he's going to be out for a while, and that's another great Gettleman signing. An injury, a good receiver, but an injury-prone receiver. He signs to a four-year deal last year.
Yeah, it's tough. Such a tough spot for the Giants to be in right now.
Absolutely. 0-2 with Saquon out. They're in for another 4-12, 5-11 season. And to replace Barkley, we'll quickly bring this up. They did sign Devontae Freeman, but let's be real about Devontae Freeman. Oh, here's the thing: pay the guy. He won't hold out. Listen. Someone who's that good, if he doesn't have a contract, he's holding out a training camp. After coming off an ACL, he's holding out. If he doesn't get paid, he's holding out. I guarantee you that's going to happen. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But we do have to talk about what the Giants are going to do to sort of replace him. They did bring in Devontae Freeman. We'll see what ends up happening there. Devontae Freeman did have a good statistical year in Atlanta in 2016. He had a good statistical year in 2015, but a lot of that was Kyle Shanahan. And once Kyle Shanahan left, this guy has been a completely different player and a very ineffective player. So, he may be able to split time with Wayne Gallman and Deion Lewis, but I'm not expecting much from Devontae Freeman, unfortunately. And I don't think he's going to really improve that Giants running game that much. So just obviously to recap, just a brutal injury with Saquon Barkley. But we'll get to some more injuries in the NFL, and on the field that the Giants and 49ers are going to be playing on Sunday, the 49ers had a gazillion injuries, but the biggest one was the injury to Nick Bosa, torn ACL. This is a huge injury for the 49ers. Joe just said, thanks, Joe. Yeah, Gallman was a healthy stretch this week, and doesn't seem to be. We'll see what ends up happening with Gallman there. We'll see what ends up happening with the Giants running game there. We'll get to Nick Bosa with he tears his ACL. This is probably if the 49ers don't lose Garoppolo for a significant amount of time, this is by far their biggest loss because he was the guy that turned things around last year. He's the guy that made this defense the top defense in the league last year. He was a guy who made this defense, this defensive line, the best defensive line in football. This guy is outstanding. If you watch that Super Bowl II, he completely owned Eric Fisher. It might not have been noticeable because of how good Patrick Mahomes is getting away from pressure, but he owned Eric Fisher in that Super Bowl. And the injuries were on Sunday were crazy from the Niners. I mean, Raheem Mostert got hurt. Tevin Coleman got hurt. Jimmy G suffered a high ankle sprain. He might not play this week in the game. George Kittle's was out last week. Solomon Thomas also tore his ACL. So just a crazy, crazy week for the 49ers.
Yeah, it was. It's too bad, too, because they got out to such a fast start against the Jets on the first play of the game, scoring a touchdown. I guess the NFL is actually right now investigating the turf at MetLife. Because I know the 49ers, thought it was a new turf that MetLife has. But, yeah, you lose Nick Bosa, one of the best defensive players in the game. He's a game wrecker. And then Solomon Thomas on the D-line, too. Just so many injuries for a team that was hoping to get back there. They thought, they had that Super Bowl up 10 in the fourth quarter. We're able to close it out. Want to get back there this year. And there's so many big names, too. It's Bosa, your quarterback, Jimmy G, D4, George Kittle, one of the best tight ends in the game. It's just, it's tough to see all these, them to lose all these guys. But let's be honest here. Without the preseason, without the training camps, without all the OTAs, I know week one, we didn't see it, but unfortunately, you figured there was kind of going to be a point where we were going to see a bunch of guys go down with injuries. You don't want to see it, but that's what's going to happen when you don't really get into it. I know some of them aren't, like the torn ACLs is nothing you really can do. It's just kind of the way you cut or whatever. But it's unfortunate for a Niners team that get one of the best teams in the NFL, and but you lose, Bosa and Thomas, both of them, for the season, really puts a damper on their D.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And they're going to play this week without Thomas, Bosa, and D Ford. So that defensive line is completely banged up. And we'll even get to when we talk about the game. They're also going to play without Raheem Mostert. They're also going to play without Tevin Coleman. George Kittle will probably play, and they'll be without Richard Sherman because he's on IR. And they might even be without Jimmy Garoppolo as well. So it's going to be the Niners are completely banged up this week when they play the Giants. But we're going to get to another running back, and that is Christian McCaffrey, and he's out 4 to 6 weeks with a high ankle sprain. This is a big loss for the Panthers, but this is a big injury. Barkley's injuries are big injuries, but obviously those teams weren't going to be Super Bowl teams anyways. Obviously, the Bosa injury to me was the biggest injury, but McCaffrey's injury is still a big injury for this Panthers team. I think they're really going to struggle without him, especially offensively. He was the best player in their offense. They have two pretty good weapons in DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, and Teddy Bridgewater is an average quarterback at best. But this is really going to hurt their offense because they're not going to be able to use play action. They're now I think Anderson and Moore's numbers go down because of this injury. He was the guy in that Carolina offense. In my opinion, I think he's the best running back in football. The way he runs through the tackles, the way he runs routes, he's the best running back in football. And yes, I didn't think the Panthers were going to be good anyways, but now I think the Panthers could be looking unless the Jets lose all their games, I think the Panthers could end up being the team to get Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I think they could. McCaffrey's definitely the best back, I think, in the NFL. I'm with you there. Just so much, and just such a big piece of this offense, and it's going to be so tough. Their offensive numbers definitely going to go down. It's going to be tougher because they've been averaging almost over 400 yards. Even when they kind of went down, I know he kind of went down late in the game, but they, I think their backup running back only had like 1 yard. I think it was Mike Davis. Like he got 2 carries, but only for like 1 yard. It's going to be tough for him to run the football, and it's going to make life even tougher on Teddy Bridgewater and in this young team. For the next 4 to 6 weeks, however, hopefully you get back as soon as possible, obviously. But yeah, it's looking like, the Panthers could be right there for Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, absolutely. I thought they were going to be outside of Jacksonville in the preseason. I thought they were going to be a 3-win team, even with Christian McCaffrey. I think they compete. I don't mind Matt Rule, but I just think talent-wise, this team is just outside of their weapons, their two receivers on offense. This team really is deprived of talent, and I think that the Panthers are going to be. This is going to be a long year for Carolina without McCaffrey.
Totally agree with you. It's going to be interesting how Joe Brady plays this year in the offense. Play action not going to be much help.
No, not at all. So the other team that's been hit with the injury bug, outside of the 49ers, who've probably been hit with the injury bug the most, the other team that's been affected has been the Denver Broncos. You saw what happened with Von Miller. Now Drew Lock is out 3 to 5 weeks, and Cortland Sutton is now out for the season with a torn ACL. And this was a team I had predicted to go to the playoffs before the season started. That's not going to happen now with all these injuries, with Lock being out. The Broncos just signed Blake Bortles yesterday. But this Broncos team is in big trouble, losing Von Miller and then losing Sutton. And if you look at the Broncos, outside of their running game, their receiving core, even though they drafted Jerry Jeudy, that could struggle now without Sutton. The quarterback play, if it's Bortles, if it's Jeff Driscoll, that's going to struggle. The offensive line we saw really struggle last week against the Steelers. Their defense isn't as good without Von Miller. I think this is a team that's in for a team that I thought was going to be good. I think it's going to be in for a long season because of these injuries.
Yeah, and I guess Jerry Jeudy right now, I heard this morning, put on the he's on the injury list right now. I guess he's questionable, and then Philip Lindsay sounds like he's doubtful too. So they lose running back, and then could possibly lose Jeudy too this week. But yeah, it's tough because I think this offense, after a couple of weeks here, could have gotten really going. I like the pieces that Denver got. I still think they have a bright future on the offense side of the ball, but you kind of lose that development this year. I know Locke's only out 3 to 5 weeks, but I think so hurts a bit. Well, still only out 4, but Denver really hit with the injury bug again. I had him at 97. I had him losing the tiebreak, the Indies. I'd like to have him the first team out, but yeah, another tough one. And then life doesn't get easier with the Bucs coming to town this weekend.
Oh no, that's gonna be a brutal game for the Broncos offense with that defense coming in. At least luckily for the Broncos, the Bucs haven't really gelled yet offensively. But with that defense coming in to play Denver, they're at home, but that defense coming to play the Broncos with that banged up offense, that's gonna be a really rough day for the Broncos offense.
Oh yeah, it definitely could, especially I assume at one point Brady's going to get it going with that offense. So I don't know if this is going to be the week, but hopefully for the Broncos' sake, it's not the week.
Before we get to the games, we're going to talk about really the reason for a lot of these injuries, and I think the most obvious one was no preseason games. As much as we hate preseason, as NFL fans, as much as people hate preseason, I feel like you need to have at least 2 preseason games to get guys, get guys going to prevent. I know there's injuries in preseason games, but to get guys to be playing live football, because I think a big reason for a lot of the injuries was the fact there wasn't any preseason games.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. The no preseason, no OTAs, no training camp. And I thought this week too, besides with the injuries, I thought it was a little bit sloppier this week too than week 1 was. As the play was a little bit sloppier, but we'll see if things get better. But yeah, it's definitely, you definitely need preseason. I think 2 games is good just to get guys reps and just to get guys well conditioned enough to get ready for the season and all that. But it's definitely, again, that's, I know everybody hates preseason, but you do need it for this type of reason.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to get into the picks. And after 2 weeks, Justin is leading by 4 games. His record is 24-8, went 14-2 last week. He had a great week last week. I am 20-12. 4 games behind Justin. I'm not sure what Joe's record is, and I think Justin's 24-8 record has to be leading CMG right now. I think it's definitely got to be leading. Joe hasn't let me know yet, but it definitely has to be leading. He definitely has to be leading CMG right now with that. With that 24-8 record, he definitely has to be. Joe is a 17-15 right now. So Justin in first place, me at 20-12, Joe at 17-15. But we'll get to the picks this week, and we got a Thursday tomorrow night. We got a Battle of Florida in Jacksonville as the 0-2 Dolphins travel up to Jacksonville to face the 1-1 Jaguars. And in this game, I think the Jaguars go to 2-1 because I think they have found their quarterback I'm not, making a definitive statement. I think they found their quarterback in Gardner Minshew. He's played really well the first 2 weeks. I think he plays well tomorrow. I think there's a good chance Byron Jones won't play for the Dolphins. And I think I think they have success in the run game. I think Minshew gets the ball to, DJ Shark. I think the Jaguars are able to move the ball. And on the other side, I think that Ryan Fitzpatrick will have a decent game. I think the Dolphins with Matt Breida will run the football pretty well. But I'm going to take the quarterback that's going to play better and make less mistakes. And I'm going to go with the Jags to go to 2-1 to beat the Dolphins 24-20. Justin.
Yeah, I'm taking the Jags. It's also the battle of mustache versus the beard.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Gardner Minshew's been really good so far this year. He's been fun to watch. Last week, he had racked up 480 yards, but the 2 picks really hurt the Jags, I felt like. I'm telling you, I think Jacksonville is this year's Miami Dolphins, last year's Miami Dolphins team. I think you're
starting to be right about that. Yeah, I kind of shut you down last week when you said that, but I think you're starting to be right about that. I'm starting to believe you there.
Yeah, I think and I know what you were saying, with Marone and the culture there, but I think that the guys they have want to be there, and I think they want to compete. They got all the bad kind of guys out of the locker room that didn't want to be there. So, and again, I think it's a positive thing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think at home they'll take it. They'll get the win.
Before we get to the Sunday games, we're going to talk about the biggest game of the week, and that's the Monday night game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. And this is probably going to be the best NFL game of the year. I'm really, really, really excited to watch this game. Obviously, you got 2 of the best quarterbacks in football with Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. I think, I think this is going to be a really close competitive game. I think on the Chiefs side, I think they might struggle to run the ball like they did last week. I think they do a little bit of a better job running the ball like they did last week with Edwards-Helaire. But I do think, I know the Ravens defense is really good. And they got 2 corners who could match. They got a corner. You got either Marcus Peters or Marlon Humphrey that could lock down Tyreek Hill. But I do think that Hill has a decent game, and I think that Travis Kelce has a really good game too. I think one of the Ravens' biggest weaknesses is the safety position. So that's why I think Travis Kelce is a pretty good game, because I don't think the Ravens have a guy that could contain Travis Kelce. I do think the Ravens will get pressure on Mahomes, but we've seen for years, does pressure on Mahomes really mean that much? Not really. It did last week. But he still won the game. Does pressure on Mahomes mean that much? Not really. I think the Ravens will run the ball and they'll have success. They'll score points. But at the end of the day, I have never seen Lamar Jackson beat Patrick Mahomes, and I'm not going to pick Lamar Jackson beat Patrick Mahomes until I see it happen. And I got the Chiefs going into Baltimore and winning a close one Monday night. I got the Chiefs 31-28 over the Ravens.
I actually got Baltimore in this one at home, 34-31. And KC struggled last week, but it feels like the Chargers have been a thorn at their side, though, since Mahomes got here. They don't always beat them, but it always seems like they give the Chiefs a competitive game every time out. Their D gave up 484 yards. I know they weren't expecting Justin Herbert to play, but I think the Chiefs are going to have a tougher time this week. I think they're going to have a tough time slowing down the Ravens offense. I think Jackson could have a big game on the ground. The only worry for me is Baltimore has already given up 6 sacks, so they got to be able to protect Lamar Jackson a lot better this week. But I like the way they've played so far. I know the Texans, Browns, but I guess those are 2 teams that Browns could be a wild card. Texans, years past have been a playoff team. I know not the same right now without Hopkins. But I think at home, Baltimore is going to be able to squeak it out. I think, I know I picked Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, but I don't know. I think Lamar's going to have a big day and kind of try to prove everybody wrong.
It should be really interesting. That should be a great game, and that's going to be probably one of the highest rated NFL. I think the highest rated NFL game outside of the Super Bowl of the entire season. That's going to rival what that Rams-Chiefs game was 2 years ago. That's what I think is going to happen there. But we got to get to my Giants, and obviously this is the first game they're going to play without Saquon Barkley as they host the 49ers this week at MetLife Stadium. Okay. In a normal week, where if the Niners were healthy, I would pick the Niners to win this game. And I know the Giants don't have Saquon Barkley, but look at all the injuries the 49ers have. Richard Sherman is going to be out. Obviously, Nick Bosa is lost for the season. They're not going to have Dee Ford. those are some really, really crucial injuries. They're not going to have Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman. Not as huge of injuries because we know Shanahan can scheme out a running game. So I do think the Niners do have some success on the ground. But the biggest issues, though, is that Jimmy Garoppolo is pretty much going to be a game time decision with a high ankle sprain. And even if he does play, he's not going to be 100% in that game. So I do think that the Giants, I think that if Nick Mullins plays, I think Nick Mullins moves the ball on the Giants, but I think he has a couple crucial turnovers, just like he did. He had one crucial turnover when they played 2 years ago. And for the Giants, I think without Ford and without Bose, obviously Bose is out for the year and Thomas is out for the year, I think the Niners will struggle to get to Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones will make some plays in this game. I think he'll get the ball. There won't be Richard Sherman's not playing either, so I think he'll get the ball to Golden Tate, Darius Slayton, and Evan Ingram. I think they'll get the ball to them, and I think the Giants have a little bit, not a great success running the ball, but I think they'll get into that 70, 80-yard range running the football with Deion Lewis and Devontae Freeman. I think it'll be mostly Deion Lewis because it's Devontae Freeman's first game back. So I think the Giants have a little bit of success running the ball. Call me a homer, call me a fanboy, call me anything you want. And I promise, if the Giants don't win this week, I will not pick them for the next 2 weeks. But I am going to take my Giants in the upset 23-20 over the 49ers, Justin.
I definitely could see the Giants winning this week. With all the injuries the Niners have, I could definitely see
and before you make your pick, I love the photo, the old school photo between the Niners and Giants that Joe put up there. We all know those days of I don't remember those days, you don't, but we all remember the 80s. Those teams battled in the playoffs, I think 5 or 6 times. They were in the playoffs every year. I love those old school helmets with the Giants and Niners.
Yeah, no, that's a good one, Joe Fon. Old school one. And but I got the Niners win this one 21-17. I know they're very banged up. I'm interested in seeing how Javon Kinlaw does now that he's going to have to fill in for Solomon Thomas on the D-line. I'm excited to watch him play. Again, I think for the Giants, they've played, again, they could have lied down last week at halftime, but they had a chance at the end of the game last week to win it, and that's all you could kind of ask for. So, again, and I like the way Bradbury's played. I think that's been a really good signing so far.
Bradbury's played well. Yeah, and Martinez, I guess he had that issue in coverage at the beginning of the game last week, but he's played pretty well too. So I didn't love those signings, but they have played well. This defense has potential to be average. The problem is when you lose your best player, you can have a very hard time winning this league.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think the Niners still have I think the Niners are going to be able to pull it out. And now I think the Niners are traveling from west to east this week.
No. They actually are staying. This is a big factor. They're staying in West Virginia this week.
Yeah, that's what I'm at. Like, if they were actually back on the West Coast, I would have probably gone Giants. But I think because they've been out here for a couple of weeks, I think the Niners will be able to pull it out. It should be a very close one. I think, low scoring. But I think the Niners will be able to pull it out 21-17.
We got a family rivalry this Sunday in Justin's house as the Raiders travel all the way to Foxborough to face the Patriots. And I think the Patriots will start really fast in this game, and I think the Raiders will start slow. Here's my reason why. The Raiders played a tough game Monday night, got a huge win Monday night in their opening of their new stadium against the Saints. And I think they're going to struggle early taking this trip all the way to Foxborough on a short week. I think they're going to be a little bit tired to start this game. But I think in the second half, the Raiders are going to pick it up. I really like this Raiders offense. I like this Raiders offense with Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller right now, right there with Travis Kelce and George Kittle as one of the top tight ends in the NFL. I think their offensive line is good. The Raiders, Mike Mayock and John Gruden have done a really good job building this team around Derek Carr. And Derek Carr is a very underrated quarterback. When Derek Carr has the pieces around him, and you saw this in 2016, Derek Carr is a good quarterback in this league. And I think he is a good quarterback in this league. But I think Cam Newton and the way he played on Sunday night, I think the Raiders defense isn't good enough to contain him. I think he has a big game on Sunday night, gets the ball to Julian Edelman, gets the ball to N'Keal Harry. I think they have success with Sonny Michel with the ground game. And I think in a close one, I got the Patriots beating the Raiders 31-24.
I got the Pats 28-23. And I've been trying to tell you about Derek Carr. I've seen so many Raider games. That's like the second most team I have to watch week in and week out. The only thing I worry about Carr is, I think that when he broke his leg, I think that's still in his head because there's times where he does not want to get hit and, gets rid of the ball too fast and doesn't go through his reads. But, I think Darren Waller is going to be a tough matchup for us. Again, and I know the Patriots lost, but I was really happy with the way the offense played for the most part. Again, with their, again, with their defense, it's, again, that's, Russell Wilson is, one of the best in the league right now. N'Keal Harry already has 13 catches, more than he did last year. Cam Newton's been trying to help, give him some praise, and I think it's really helped N'Keal Harry this year. Bird has kind of emerged as their number 3 guy in this offense for a wide receiver core, which I've kind of liked him. They got to be able to kind of, I know missing James White, again, condolences to, him and his family. Hopefully he's back on the field Sunday. Would really help him out because Mitchell only had 19 yards. They really could not get much other in the running game than Cam. But again, I think they're going to be able to pull it out 2023.
Yeah, so it should be a good game between those two teams. But we got an AFC matchup in Pittsburgh. You got the 2-0 Steelers against the desperate 0-2 Texans. And I think in this game, the Steelers are going to have success running the ball with James Conner. I think Big Ben will manage the game. And I do think the Steelers will get a lot of pressure on Deshaun Watson. But I love Deshaun Watson. I think he's going to compete, and this game's going to be close. But at the end of the day, I think this game comes down to the ball in Deshaun Watson's hands against the Steelers defense. And as much as I like Deshaun Watson, I like the Steelers defense a little bit more. And I'm taking the Steelers in this one, 23-19 over the Texans. But this is a game the Texans got to win, or Bill O'Brien could lose this locker room. This is a must-win for the Texans.
Yeah, the Texans did not get much help from the scheduling department with their first 3 games. Probably the top 3 teams in the AFC right now they got to face. And I think TJ Watt and battle the brothers, CJ versus JJ on Sunday. But I think Bud Dupree, TJ Watt are going to live in the backfield. I think they're really going to get pressure on Watson. Again, he can scramble and make plays. I just don't know if he's going to be able to make enough of them. I don't know if – and I think the Steelers are going to be able to pull this one out at home. James Conner had a great bounce back week last week after really struggling Monday night. I know he got hurt in that game. But I think, Pittsburgh's going to be too much for him. I think they get the win at home 27-17.
We got an NFC matchup in Atlanta, and Atlanta's trying to bounce back from an absolutely crushing loss last Sunday to the Cowboys. They host the 2-0 Bears this week, and I think this is a close, competitive game. But, I'm going to take the team that needs to win more, and I'm going to take the better quarterback. I do think the Bears move the ball on the Falcons defense, so I think Trubisky's numbers are pretty good. But I do think Matt Ryan has a pretty good day against the Bears defense as well. I think, Julio Jones has a good game. Calvin Ridley has a good game. I think this is close. It's going to come right down to the end. But I'm going to take the Falcons over the Bears 26-23.
I'm going to take the Bears to go on the road 30-27. And I think Mitchell Trubisky comes, leads them back late in the fourth quarter and gets a game-winning touchdown drive. Atlanta has just been, that was just I don't know how they lost that game. I don't know how they don't understand that you could jump on that onside kick there. But I think, I think Trubisky's going to have success. I think something like kind of when they played the Lions a couple weeks ago, they may struggle early, but I think they kind of come back. They find it, they get going, and they should be able to win this game. I just do not like Atlanta's defense right now at all. And I think, Mitchell's going to play a pretty good game.
We got an interconference matchup in Cleveland as the Washington football team heads out to Cleveland to face the Cleveland Browns. And I think for Cleveland, I think this is another game where they have a lot of success on the ground. I like their blueprint last week against Cincinnati, running the football with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, and I think they do that again this week. I think they run the football with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Yes, the Redskins have stopped the run pretty well the first 2 weeks, but I think the Browns have success on the ground, and that limits the pass rush of the Redskins to get to Baker Mayfield. And for the Redskins, they had a big injury with losing Brandon Sheriff. I'm not sure if he's out for the season or not, but Brandon Sheriff won't play. He's the Redskins' best offensive lineman. So I think Myles Garrett and Olivier Vernon and Sheldon Richardson are going to have a field day getting to Dwayne Haskins. I think the Redskins also have success not have that much success running the football either. So I think Cleveland wins this game, and I think Baker manages the Browns to another victory. And I got the Browns beating the Washington football team 24-13.
I get the Browns winning this one 23-20. I think, Baker may make a mistake or two and keeps Washington close in this one. They got to do a better job on the ground this week. Washington gave up 160 rushing yards last week. I think, and then I think for the, Browns, I think they'll be able to control their own game. With that being said, they got it. I do worry they got to protect Baker Mayfield. But I think the Browns have a little bit too much offensively for Washington to keep up. And I'll take the Browns to get the win at home.
Got an interconference matchup in Minnesota as the Titans head up to Minnesota to face the Vikings. Titans 2-0, Vikings 0-2. And it's another game of an 0-2 against a 2-0 team. I'm going to take the team that's 0-2. I'm going to take the more desperate Minnesota team to beat Tennessee. I think Dalvin Cook has a good game on the ground. I think that Kirk Cousins plays better this week. And I just don't see Ryan Tannehill. He had a big week last week. I think the Viking defense, yes, it hasn't played well, but I think it's better. I think it's not the defense it was in 2017, but I think it's better than what it's shown the last 2 weeks. And I think it'll have a pretty good game on Sunday. Yes, I think Jarek Henry will get his yards on the ground, but I think the Viking defense gets some pressure on Ryan Tannehill. Has a pretty good game. I think Tannehill has a costly turnover in the game too. And I'm going to go with the Vikings in the upset in this game. I can't see a Mike Zimmer team going 0-3. I like Mike Zimmer. He's a good coach. Not a great coach, but a good coach. I got the Vikings beating the Titans 24-21.
I got Titans 30-15. I really remember last year, Steve, when Diggs was kind of not happy with the production. They were struggling offensively. I think he really just misses. I think this offense really misses Stephon Diggs.
Oh, absolutely. Really absolutely.
Do. And this Cousins right now just looks lost out there. He's making a lot of poor decisions. I just don't think this Minnesota team's really good offensively. I know they still got Cook and Thielen. I don't really see him doing much. I think Tennessee is able to control this game. Their first 2-0 start since 2008. And Ryan Tannehill also leads the league since week 7 of last year with 10 straight games, at least 2 touchdowns and no INTs. He's been able to take care of the football, and I think he'll be able to do that again. I think Cousins is going to make a couple mistakes, and Titans are going to be able to capitalize off of it.
We got an interconference matchup in Buffalo, and this is interesting because the Rams were on the East Coast last week in Philadelphia. I'm pretty sure they flew back to Los Angeles. They'll be heading back to Buffalo this week, so that is definitely an advantage for the Bills. I think the Bills are going to have a good day offensively, and they get the run game going with Moss and Singletary. I think Josh Allen, who's played really well these first 2 weeks, he continues to play well. And for the Rams, the biggest reason why I didn't think the Rams were going to be that good this year was because of their offensive line and their run game. That has improved from last year. Their O-line has definitely improved. Their run game with Dontrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown has improved. But Malcolm Brown might be out this week, and that could hurt that run game. And I still think Jared Goff has a decent week. I think he still plays pretty well. But I got Buffalo winning this game against the Rams 27-20 to go to 3-0.
Yeah, I get the Bills 28-24 at home. Diggs has been a great addition. We were just talking about the Vikings. And I heard somebody make this comparison the other day with Josh Allen. I thought it was actually pretty interesting and kind of agreed with it. That Josh Allen is like a big league kind of slugger in baseball. He's either going to hit the home run ball or he's going to strike out. And
Great comparison there.
Yeah, I forgot who it was, and it makes sense because they didn't shooting for the deep ball. For the most part, it's panned out so far for the Bills. And and for the Bills too coming up, you got to go to Vegas and Tennessee coming up, and the AC coming at home. So this is, I feel like, a must kind of win game here, win. But again, kind of tough stretch here. Even though they should be able, I think, take care of business here at home. But I'm surprised with how well the Rams have been playing. They've been surprisingly playing some good football so far.
Absolutely. Got a matchup of 2 0-2 teams in Philadelphia as Joe Burrow and the Bengals head up to Philly to face Carson Wentz and the Eagles. And here's the thing. I know Carson Wentz is getting a ton of criticism this week. He's getting destroyed for the way he's played. Yes, the last 6 quarters of football, he has been absolutely terrible. He's been awful. But we know Carson Wentz is a good quarterback. We know Carson Wentz is a top 10 quarterback in this league, and I think he's going to show that on Sunday. I think a big reason for that is they're going to get that running game going with Miles Sanders. He had a good week last week, and the Bengals cannot stop the run at all. I think Miles Sanders in the pass game and the run game is going to have a huge week. I think Carson Wentz is going to have a good week. I really, really like Joe Burrow. I think he is the guy for the Bengals, and he's played well the first 2 weeks. Just the team Joe Burrow was on was the worst team in football last year, and he's trying to elevate that team. But I do think he plays a really good game too. But the Eagles need this game. I did pick the Eagles the first 2 weeks. As a Giants fan, it's weird picking the Eagles and then they lose. I picked the Eagles the first 2 weeks and they lost. But I'm going to do it again. I'm going to pick the Eagles again. And I got them winning this week, 31-27 over Bengals.
I get the Eagles 24-20. I don't know if did you hear it, Steve, Sunday after one of the interceptions? They actually had the sound effects of booing Carson Wentz.
And I listened actually to Phil. I was listening to 97.5 The Fanatic. That was not the stadium. That was the Fox crew that did that for the fans. Yes, that was not the stadium. That was the Fox crew that did that.
Oh, I did not know that.
Huh. Yes, that was the Fox crew that did that.
I guess that makes more sense because that was weird that they
would
that actually was weird.
Even the Eagles, they would never do that. They would never. No team's going to pipe in crowd noise. That's no team's going to pipe in crowd noise booing. That was the Fox crew that did that for entertainment for the fans watching the game.
That makes a lot more sense now because that was interesting when I heard that. But he's really been struggling. Their turnover mark's already at -5. Joe Burrow was also hit last Thursday more times than he was all of last year at LSU. It just kind of shows how bad his offensive line. But obviously, LSU had a bunch of NFL players on that team. Definitely agree with you. Joe Burrow is the guy to kind of bring Cincinnati kind of back here, try to elevate them, get them back to the playoffs. Not this year, but in a few years, they have the weapons. But I think the Eagles are going to bounce back this week.
Yeah, I agree there. I think the Eagles win this game. We got one of the biggest games of the week in Seattle as the Cowboys head out to Seattle to face the Seahawks. And I think this is a really, really high-scoring game between both these two teams because, even though Tyron Smith might be out, Seattle cannot get pressure on the quarterback, as you saw last week. I think Dak has a huge week. Cooper has a huge week. Lamb has a huge week. Elliott has a good week on the ground. And for the Seahawks, the same thing. I think they have success on the ground, and Wilson has a huge week getting the ball to DK Metcalf as well. So I think this game is back and forth between the two teams. But I have Seattle winning it 34-31 over the Cowboys. But here's the thing with the Cowboys. After last week, can we now pay Dak Prescott? Jerry Jones, pay the man. He deserves the money. He brought you back from 3 scores down to win that game. Pay Dak Prescott. But I got Seattle winning this week.
Yeah, I got Seattle 34-24. That was an incredible comeback by Dallas. And
got a little luck. As a Cowboy hater, got a little, but still incredible comeback. I'll give it to him.
Yeah, well,
3 Falcons looking at the football on the onside kick, but still, I'll give it to him.
That's coaching, right there, on Dan Quinn. But going to Seattle, I just don't still understand how Russell Wilson does not have at least one vote for MVP.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd. I mean, the guy is he's arguably the best quarterback in the league. He's right there with Patrick Mahomes on the top tier of quarterbacks. It's absolutely ridiculous. And he does everything you want in a quarterback. The guy's humble. The guy cares about his team. He's an outstanding player, an outstanding leader. He's everything you want from a quarterback. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, clearly.
Oh, yeah. And I've heard West Coast bias in college. It's more, but I'm not usually seeing in the NFL West Coast bias, with time they play at. But it's still so surprising. DK Metcalf, he looks like an emergent star in this league.
You bet the Patriots drafted him, dude.
No, trust me. Yeah, Sunday night was very down on that. Especially he burnt Gilmore a couple of times, but that was frustrating. Why DK Metcalf beat us is hoping he was going to be a Patriot uniform. So I think Metcalf could have another big day against that secondary. I think Seattle at home, even though it's not the 12th man, they're not a fan there. I think Seattle's still going to get the win at home.
We got Tom Brady heading out to a little. This is a house of horrors for Brady, though, as we know, as Patriot fans know. He's heading to Denver to face the Broncos. But the problem with the Broncos is they're so banged up especially on offense and even on defense without Von Miller. I mean, I think that Denver has a lot of trouble against the Tampa Bay defense. I think the Bucs completely shut down Denver's offense, and I think the Buccaneers do enough offensively. I think they get the run game going with Fournette. I think Brady has a pretty good game, and I got the Bucs winning this one 24-10 over the Broncos.
Yeah, I get the Bucs 27-17 on the road. I thought the Bucs offense looked really good in the first half, and then second half they kind of just fell apart. They didn't really play well in the second half. I know Bruce Arians said they're going to use him as a blocker, not as a receiver, so Gronk's not very happy about that. But I'm kind of Jeff Driscoll too. He actually has more completions down the more than 20 yards so far than Patrick Mahomes does. I never thought he was going to kind of really be in the NFL. I didn't really like him at Florida. I know he went to Louisiana Tech and played pretty well senior year. Not really a big fan of him. I think they're going to struggle offensively. I could see, a Bucs turnover kind of, deep in their own zone and Denver kind of capitalize on it. But Tampa, I think 27-17 win.
We got a game. We got a battle in Arizona of the 2-0 Cardinals and the 0-2 Lions. And for me, this is such an easy one. I mean, the Lions are an absolute mess. Matt Patricia should not be. He's the worst head coach in the NFL. Yes, he's worse than Adam Gase. He is the worst coach in the National Football League, Matt Patricia, and he should never have came back this year. The Lions have lost now 11 in a row. 4 times. They've made history. They've had a double-digit lead in the last 4 games, and they've lost all 4 of those games. And they still have Matthew Stafford, who's yes, he's regressed, but he's still not a bad quarterback. Even though I'm not a huge Matthew Stafford fan, he's not a bad quarterback. But the Lions are a total mess. And look, the Cardinals should win this game big. They should get the run game going with Kenyon Drake because the Lions can't stop anything on the ground. Kyler Murray should have a huge game through the air, getting the ball to DeAndre Hopkins. And for the Lions, I think they're going to have I think they're starting to quit on Mike Patricia. I mean, I think they're going to have, even offensively, I think Stafford's going to start looking unengaged. He's the one guy where when things are going well, he starts playing well, but there are times where he looks unengaged. That happened in the first season under Matt Patricia. I think the Cardinals defense gets pressure on him. I think it's a rough day for the Lions offense as well. I think this is a big Cardinals win, 31-13, and Matt Patricia's days as a head coach should be numbered.
Yeah, him and Adam Gase are right there neck and neck to me as the worst coach in the league. I think Lions start out fast, and I think they blow it once again. They start out fast, and they kind of just implode. I just cannot believe 4 straight games of double-digit leads. It's just that's bad. And what happened? They beat the Patriots that Sunday night game his first year and dominated them, and everybody said Patricia's going to turn Detroit around.
Caldwell was much better than him. Much better than Patricia.
There's a lot. Everybody.
A lot of coaches are much better than Patricia.
Yeah, there's a ton, and I think Arizona's in fall behind, but I think they'll mount and come back. And again, I think Hopkins is going to torch the secondary because Rodgers really targeted.
Kuda was horrendous last week against the Packers. Horrendous.
He was. And I feel for the rookie, but I think Murray's going to go after him again this week.
And it shows you why we got the number 3 pick. I think it would have been smart taking Tua and ending the Stafford era.
Yeah, it definitely could have. I know they thought Stafford was still their guy.
Listen, I'm a fan of a team that knows what happens when you still think you have the guy and you don't. I know that feeling. Okay.
Yeah. Because the Lions too thought, I don't think they were a playoff team, but I think it seemed like kind of in the front office, they believe that they're a piece of life and being the.
This is Matthew Stafford. He's at his peak. He's a good quarterback. He ain't winning the championships because you don't know what Stafford you're getting. And the Stafford you're getting this year is not the good one. So that's why they should have moved on.
Yeah, they should have. Then, again, and look at this rate, maybe they're a team that find their way to the top pick.
Oh, I think they are. I think they are. I think they could end up getting Justin Fields or even maybe Trevor Lawrence if they continue to play this way. But from another terrible team, from one terrible team to another terrible team, and probably the worst in football, we got the Jets heading to Indianapolis to face the Colts. And you're bad when you're a 10.5-point underdog against a quarterback that is past his prime. We were even arguing last week that Phillip Rivers might be one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. And the Colts are a 10.5-point favorite. And I think the Colts cruise in this game. I think they get the run game going with Jonathan Taylor. I think Phillip Rivers just doesn't – this is a game where Phillip Rivers just doesn't have to do much. He just has to manage the game. And for the Jets, I know there's injuries in the secondary for the Colts, but, I think the offensive line with DeForest Buckner is going to get pressure on Sam Darnold. I think Darius Leonard will prevent the Jets from running the football. And as much of a Sam Darnold fan as I am, I know the roster is terrible, but he needs to step up too. But I think this game is a big Colts win. I think the bigger question is, if the Jets get the number 1 pick, what do they do? And as big of a Sam Darnold fan as I am, if they get the number 1 pick, I think they need to take Trevor Lawrence if it gets to that point.
I think I would have to agree there because you let a guy like Trevor Lawrence slip, who I heard, too, he's the best QB prospect since Andrew Luck. He can't really pass on a guy like that. And I heard too, and I want to mention this quickly is let's remember too, for Jeff Baines, that everybody wants Gase all fired. He's not going anywhere. He's the one that hired Joe Douglas, and everybody I heard above Joe Douglas for the most part, all friends with Peyton Manning. And this is Peyton Manning's guy, Adam Gase. So I don't know if the Jets are going to burn that bridge in the front office.
Oh God.
I have a feeling that Adam Gase isn't going anywhere. It seems like,
but the thing is, he needs to go places. You got even guys saying, you got Avery Williams, you got Dexter McDougal saying they're not practicing well. They're practicing terrible. How are you not even practicing well? If you're not practicing well, that's on the head coach. Their practices are lackluster. I think this team has kind of even quit on him because of the Jamal Adams trade. I think the Jamal Adams trade has definitely affected this team to start the season. That's why this thing is just a complete mess with the New York Jets right now.
It is, and the owner last week said he called Adam Gase again a genius. So
that's the problem. The owner is a buffoon. Chris Johnson is a buffoon.
Thank God.
That's the problem.
At least you guys aren't the worst team in New York. At least you guys
I know.
Kind of.
I mean, it's hard not to be knowing that the Jets are the other team in New York.
Yeah, it is. But look, this is just awful.
It's pathetic.
Snap right now. Colts won big.
Yeah, Colts. Yes. We got a interconference matchup in Los Angeles as the Panthers head to LA to visit the Chargers. And first, before we talk about the game, crazy story about Tyrod Taylor, unfortunate story about Tyrod Taylor. I mean, I feel terrible for him, even though he might have lost his starting job anyways. I just feel terrible for Tyrod Taylor. But getting to the game, I think this Chargers defense, you saw what they did last week to Kansas City, getting pressure on Mahomes, limiting Mahomes. They'll definitely limit this Panthers offense without Christian McCaffrey. I think this Chargers defense will have a huge day. And I think on the ground, Justin Herbert will manage this game, run the ball with Joshua Kelly and Austin Eckler. And I think a game that Herbert doesn't have to do as much. And I got the Chargers win. And I got to win it 24-9 against the Panthers.
I get Chargers 21-20. I think Carolina could keep it close this week. I think they could be able to, or 23-17, my bad. I think, Panthers scored late touchdown, late field goal, late to kind of make it respectable. A lot of kudos for Justin Herbert, the way he came in there last week at the last possible second to start without any preseason, and probably didn't take any reps with the first team last week to be able to play like he did. And I was kind of a guy, I didn't really know what to expect from him, but it looks like he could have a future right now. He could have a decent future in the NFL.
No, I definitely like what I see out of Justin Herbert. I definitely like what I see out of him, and I like the Chargers winning this week. We got to get to the last game of the weekend, and the Sunday night game. And I think this is going to be an exciting game between the Saints and the Packers. And I think the difference in this game, though, is I think Michael Thomas is more on track to play than Devontae Adams is, and I think the Saints will be the team that runs the ball better. I know the Packers clearly have the better quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, who's played outstanding. Drew Brees has struggled, but I think the Saints are going to run the football better, definitely going to run the football better than the Packers. And I think that's going to be the difference in the game. The run game with Murray and Kamara. I think Brees will manage the game. He'll make some good throws. I'm pretty sure Michael Thomas will play. And for the Packers, I think the Saints will contain that running game. I think they're a little embarrassed what happened on defense on Monday night. I think they'll contain that running game. They'll get some pressure on Aaron Rodgers. And I got the Saints winning a close one. I got the Saints beating the Packers 27-24.
I get the Packers 34-24. Aaron Rodgers right now just looks like a man playing possessor now. I know Adams is questionable. I just didn't like the Saints for the most part. They got out to a nice start, and then they kind of just, again, that second half, they just could not stop the Raiders whatsoever. And penalties too. Penalties were a huge part of that. And again, I think, I think a guy like when you're playing Aaron Rodgers is a guy you can't really give extra plays to, and I think he could burn them. I don't, if Thomas is, if he plays, I think the Saints definitely have a good shot of winning. I think they probably do win the game. Thomas is playing, but I just, again, Brees just not the same right now, and I'm going with the Packers.
Before we get to college football, we're going to talk about a little about unfortunate passing today, and Gayle Sayers passed, unfortunately, at the age of 77. And Gayle Sayers, I mean, if people don't really know him, I remember him from the movie Brian Song, him and Brian Piccolo. I mean, and he was right by Brian Piccolo's side when he unfortunately passed away. Brian Song was a great movie. I enjoyed watching it. It's a great movie. And Gayle Sayers had a really, really good, had a great NFL career. 5-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro. Chicago Bear from 1965 to 1971. One of the he played for, I think he played for George Halas with the Bears. Pro Football Hall of Famer 1977. Just a great player and one of the best running backs in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, and and too, he only played 7 years in the NFL too. And for the short time they kind of had in the league, he really made a huge impact with the four Pro Bowls. Absolutely great return, man. 8 touchdowns, almost 5,000 yards rushing too in his career in 7 years. So, a tremendous player. He was a tremendous player.
Absolutely, and it's just so sad to see him go. Just one of the best players in the history of the NFL. But we're now going to get to college football, and before we get into the games, we're going to talk about some of the COVID issues that are going on in college football. And as you see this week, Notre Dame and Wake Forest got postponed. You saw, and now South Florida is concerned about COVID. And then last week you had the Houston Baylor get postponed. Even the week before, Houston was supposed to play Memphis, and then UNC Charlotte, North Carolina, that game got canceled. BYU and Army got postponed. So the COVID issues, even with the big SEC starting this weekend and the Big Ten coming back, I am not convinced that this college football season is going to finish because of the COVID issues.
Yeah, it kind of jumps off the page.
They're definitely a lot further where I thought they were going to be. I didn't think there was going to be a college football season a month and a half ago, but I'm not 100% convinced this college football season is going to finish.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Again, I think if they can get to Thanksgiving, which is, again, still 2 months away, they'll be able to get it. It's just the tough part is with with still all these guys being on campus with everybody else on campus. Again, and all these coaches say, well, they're healthier, they're safer on campus. If there was no students there, 100% agree with you. Now, not so much, because 18 to 22-year-old kids most of them are not social distancing. Again, they don't care. And again, a lot of these guys are, from the most part, are getting it from all that. And yeah, I think, it does jump off the page, all the cancellations with the and Notre Dame was one of the kind of better ones throughout the summer. They only had like 1 or 2 positive tests all summer. And then now with school, it's kind of jumped. And again, you're going to, again, I think like the SEC schools are going to push through it no matter what. But if it gets bad enough, who knows? Yeah,
this is a story we'll be monitoring pretty much all season. But we got to get to the games this week. I mean, we're going to talk about a good amount of them. And we'll start with the noon kicks with Florida going up against Ole Miss. So you got Kyle Trask going up against Lane Kiffin in his first game. I think Florida's defense is too good, and I think Trask is a good quarterback, and I got Florida winning it by a couple scores.
Yeah, I got Florida. Again, I think this is their year. This is Florida's year to finally get the SEC East. Again, Dan Mullen promised another championship. They haven't won the SEC since 2008. They added a guy on the line, Stuart Reese, 34 games started at Mississippi State. It'll be interesting to see what Lane Kiffin does. John Reese Plumlee, if he does get the starting job, it's either him or Matt Corral. John Reese Plumlee, one of the toughest quarterbacks stop on the ground. He averaged 113 rushing yards a game. And then they have a freshman coming off on the edge here, Damian Clowney, the cousin of J. Vavion. So he's one of the top recruits for Ole Miss. So I got Florida win this one 31-17.
Another SEC matchup at noon as we got Kentucky traveling to Auburn. And I think this is a close competitive game, but I'm taking Bo Nix and the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, I got Auburn at home 28-24. Bo Nix, I think he needs to take that next step. He's got a great wide receiver duo with Seth Williams and Anthony Schwartz. And Schwartz is one of the top, fastest guys in college football. Chad Morris, the new OC, just coming over from Arkansas, the head coach last year. On the D line, they're obviously a couple holes lost on the D line, but a guy that they're really looking forward to stepping in this year, Big Cat Bryant. Kind of a great name for that. And then for Kentucky, again, I don't think Mark Stoops has got enough credit for what he's done with this Kentucky program. Nobody really cared about Kentucky football. This was a 3-4-1 team every year. And he's come in here 3 straight bowl games. Terry Wilson's back at quarterback, but I just think that Auburn's got too much. Kentucky will keep it close, but 28-24.
Got Louisville traveling to Pittsburgh this week, and I think that Cunningham has a bounce back week, and I think the Cardinals win a close one over the Panthers.
Yeah, I got I got Pitt at home, 34-24. Kenny Pickett's, I think, very good quarterback. I didn't get talked too much about. This defense, though, was one of the best in the country. They only gave 170 yards last week to Syracuse. Chase Pine, middle linebacker. Coach Narduzzi says he could be a big-time NFL middle linebacker. Watch out for him. For Louisville, their defense, it's the same story as last year for Louisville. They just gave up way too many big plays. They did that again Saturday night. And I think Pitt at home is going to be able to get the win.
Mississippi State travels to Baton Rouge to face LSU, the defending national champs, but LSU is a completely different team. This is Mike Leach's opener with Mississippi State. I got LSU. I don't think the game's going to be a blowout. I got LSU winning a close one over Mississippi State because Mississippi State's got their running back coming back.
Yeah, I think 34-21 LSU. It's going to be very interesting to see how Mike Leach's offense comes in here. He actually made a funny statement today. He said, Mike Leach, saying that he wants somebody next to him at all times that's closer, just in case the tiger escapes the cage this week, so he doesn't get eaten first. Very Mike Leach-like, but this LSU team, they got Jabil Cox, linebacker coming in from North Dakota State. I think he's a guy that's really gonna make a name for himself for the draft. Derek Stingley, I think, is the best defensive back in the country. Jacoby Stevens is back. He had 92 tackles a year ago. And the tight end, Reed Gilbert coming in, this freshman Gatorade National Player of the Year, 6'5", 250 tight end. One of the top high school this is like the top, one of the best high school prospects. People have seen a tight end in a long time. So I can't wait to watch him play. But Miles Brennan, tough spot here to take over for Joe Burrow, but they should be able to get the job done. We
got a battle of Texas as Texas heads to Lubbock to face Texas Tech, and I think with Sam Ehlinger this year, this is Texas' year to win the Big 12 with Oklahoma having an inexperienced quarterback. I got the Longhorns big over the Red Raiders.
Yeah, 52-27. Texas Tech struggled against Houston Baptist, a newer Division I team, and they gave 594 yards of offense. It's Texas Tech just had not been able to stop anyone. Andre Fry, they changed him. He's an All-American. He was a safety, moving from cornerback. But this Texas offense, Benji Robinson, 6'2", 222 running back. Should be fun to watch him. Their secondary, they got 9 guys back on defense. Their secondary is loaded. They got 3 drop half picks at safety. This is Texas' year. There's pressure on Tom Herman to start getting it done here. And this is the year for Texas, and they should take care of business big against the Red Raiders.
We got Army heading to Cincinnati this weekend. I think it's a close, competitive game, but I'm taking the Bearcats over Army.
Yeah, I got Bearcats as well, 27-21, back-to-back 11-year wins for Luke Fickell. And he did turn down that Michigan State job to come back here. They got 4 running backs. They're looking for somebody to kind of step up at running back this year. They got 4 transfers coming in on the offensive side of the ball to help out. But I think Cincinnati's going to be able to get it done. Army's been good, but this is their really first big test of the year. They're 2-0, averaging just under 400 rushing yards a game. They already got 3 guys over 100 yards. If Army could kind of control the pace of the game like they like to do, keep the ball at Desmond Riddle's hands, I think Army's got a good shot to win it. But again, Cincy, I think they can run the table. I think they could have a shot at the table for the college football playoff. I think they could be in the conversation.
Big 12 matchup in Stillwater as the Mountaineers travel down to Stillwater to face Oklahoma State. And I don't care who plays quarterback for Oklahoma State. I got Oklahoma State winning the game because of Chua Hubbard. I got him winning it close, just like last week.
Yeah, the scary thing about last week was they had 12 more practices than Tulsa did because Tulsa had COVID returns, and Tulsa's quarterback only practiced 4 out of the 42 days because he had COVID and he was in quarantine for a month. And the offense really, really struggled. I don't know if I haven't heard anything on Sandy that I think he is still questionable. They looked awful. I don't think they could look any worse. Again, I think there's a third best team in the Big 12. They can make some noise and they could get, they could get to the Big 12 championship game, but they got to look a lot better offensive. Their defense, though, that's always been the problem. They were 80th 2 years ago. Last year, they were 37th defense efficiency in the country, and they got 10 guys back. For West Virginia, they didn't go bowling for the first time since 2013. They were 128th last year in rushing. They really need to improve on that. Up front on the D line, they got the They got Darius and Dante Stills, the brothers. They both of them had 11.5 tackles, or Dante or Darius had 15 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, and his brother had 11.5 tackles for loss and 7 sacks. So up front, they can get some pressure. I could see Washington winning it, but I think Oklahoma was going to bounce back from last week.
We got the rivalry game as Florida State travels down to Miami to face the Hurricanes, and I think this game is an easy win for Miami. I don't care if it's a rivalry. Florida State's not good at all, and De'Ara King was really good last week for Miami. That's why I got Miami winning it by 2 or 3 scores.
I got Miami 35-14. I think, and I know what you're saying is on the offensive line, and I really think college football, you really have to win the battle up front. When you're kind of, I think, if you can, and Florida State has not been able to do that the last 3 years. It's been the problem. Mike Norvell, the head coach, will not be there as he actually has COVID right now. I think he could return Monday if he tests negative, I believe. I think James Blackman could be a solid quarterback for Florida State. He just runs for his life every time out there. I think Miami's going to get pressure on him. And I think it's gonna be a long day for Florida State's offense. And De'Ara King, I was wrong. I should say I thought, I liked the offense. I thought their offense could be good. I didn't think he was kind of gonna change it like he has. And the OC Retlish Lashley he was actually the OC at Auburn they had Nick Marshall, and they're kind of running the same kind of similar stuff. They're giving them a lot of QB design runs, and it's really panned out. He only had 9 rushing yards, but again, you really have to think about De'Ara King because you do not want him to beat you with his legs.
We got an SEC matchup this week as Tennessee travels to Columbia to face South Carolina, and I got the Vols winning close over the Gamecocks.
Yeah, I got the Vols 24-21. They won 7 out of the last 8 after all the noise of Jeremy Pruitt. It just kind of looks like another Tennessee was kind of here for a long rebuild. Once again, he wasn't going to be the guy, but they turned around at the end of last year. They really started to play for him. I really like this team. Jared Catano is back. We'll see if he can kind of take that next step. He's very up and down. I know injuries as well to him have kind of hurt. But I think the Vols on the road should be able to get it done. For South Carolina, they got grad transfer Colin Hills. They just announced starting quarterback. Mike Bobo, who's the head coach at Colorado State, now is the OC, so Colin Hill followed them from Colorado State to South Carolina. So he's kind of familiar, but this is a must win, I think. Or for Will Muschamp, he's squarely on the hot seat, and he better win some games. He better get to a bowl game, or I do not think he will be at South Carolina much longer.
We'll wrap up our talking about an ACC matchup in Blacksburg as North Carolina, as NC State travels up to Blacksburg to face Virginia Tech, and I'm going with the Hokies over the Wolfpack.
Yeah, I've got the Hokies at home. Bud Foster is no longer there. The longtime D coordinator, I think he was there since '86. They're actually in the last since Justin Fuentes.
Fuentes
got there 4 years ago. They're actually second in the ACC with the most wins at 33, only behind clearly Clemson. But it really hasn't seemed like that for Virginia Tech. They're hoping Hayden Hoker, the quarterback last year, really played well when they threw him in there. They averaged 36 points a game when he was a starter. I think it was only 22 without him. So they're kind of hoping he can take the next step. NC State's very young still, and I think they have they have a couple solid recruiting classes. They're still freshmen and sophomore. So I think next year and the year after for NC State, they're going to be really good again. Like they were 2 years ago, but I think they're going to struggle this year. And I got Virginia Tech win at home.
We're going to get to baseball, and we'll start talking about the Yankees. And right now it looks like they're going to be the number 5 seed in the American League. So, and normally they'd be the second wild card, but it looks like they're going to be the number 5 seed in the American League. And yes, they lost 2 out of 3, but because they had Debbie Garcia and Michael King pitching. But I think this rotation is really starting to come into form. I think Garrett Cole, the last three or four starts, has looked like the Cy Young Award winner we thought he was going to be. Tanaka's pitched well, Happ's pitched well, bullpen's getting back into shape. And I think the offense, you got Judge back. He had a big game last night, 3 hits. Stanton's back. So this offense is finding its form too. Luke Voigt's had an MVP season. So I think this Yankee team is in good shape going into the playoff. Now the question is going to be, who would you rather play? Would you rather play the White Sox or would you rather play the Twins? And I think for any Yankee fan, this should be the easiest question ever. It's the Minnesota Twins because obviously we've owned them. And I think, honestly, the White Sox scare me more. I think the Twins in the rotation, they've had really one guy that's pitched great this year, and that's Kenton Maeda. He's not a great pitcher. Jose Barrios doesn't scare me at all. In their lineup, they've had one guy who's really hit that well, and that's been Nelson Cruz. Their lineup is kind of underachieved. Their bullpen's pretty good, but Taylor Rogers just struggled at closer. If you look at the White Sox, they have the AL MVP on their team in Jose Abreu. He's right now, in my opinion, the AL MVP. Dallas Keuchel's had a really good year. Lucas Giolito's had a good year. They also got Luis Robert in that lineup. They also got Eloy Jimenez in this lineup. Now the White Sox have a half-game lead over the Twins. But if you're giving me the choice, and I think any Yankee fan, this is pretty obvious, I'm taking the Twins to play in the first round. Yeah, I don't care where it is either. I don't care if it's in Minnesota or New York. I don't care where it is.
They are 22-5 at home. The Twins. They love playing.
Justin, it's the Twins. Okay, as Yankee fans, it's the Twins.
It is. And you don't have Luke Voit though in your AL MVP.
Oh no, I do. I have Luke Voit second. I got Jose Abreu first. Luke Voit second.
I got Voit right now at the MVP. But yeah, the Twins, they've owned them 13 straight. I think the Twins have lost like 16 straight playoff games. But again, I kind of think of it the other way of, okay, they're due to win eventually, right? But I'll kind of go the other way here. I would rather play the White Sox. I'll just kind of go the other way here because if they blow this lead here in the AL Central, they blow the 1 seed. This is a team that hasn't been there before. Who knows what could happen? And now you play the Yankees. I know you get them at home, but they're gonna have to face Garrett Cole in Game 1. I think you put the pressure squarely on Chicago. We don't know how they would react from kind of blowing it. And again, they haven't been playing that well the last 2 weeks here down the stretch. They've kind of been up and down. So I think it could. I think I'd probably rather face the White Sox because they haven't been here before. But
they haven't been there, but they scare me more in a short series, especially having to face a Dallas Keuchel and Lucas Giolito too.
Yeah, they definitely do have the better rotation, but again, Tanaka's got under 2 ERA in the playoffs. Again, the Game 3 starter would be kind of up in the air. I'd probably go Happ or Garcia right now. The way those two guys, I know Garcia had a rough on Sunday, but I'm still confident in Garcia. But yeah, this Yankee team right now, they're starting to find a rhythm, and this is absolutely the right time to kind of find that rhythm right now. And they're playing their best baseball right now at the best point of the season so far right now.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I think this team, that series against the Rays is probably going to determine who goes to the World Series tonight. Because it looks like the Rays are going to get the 1 seed. I think the Yankees will win in the first round. I think that Ray-Yankee division series is probably going to determine who goes to the World Series.
Yeah, I could definitely. Definitely. And that would be. And I know the Rays would not want to face the Yankees once again. I know it'd be a neutral park. I think that one's San Diego, but. Yeah, that'd be fun to get there, especially because they pretty much own the Yankees. So it would be great to kind of get – and they're a team, too, that hasn't really beaten the Yankees until this point, until this year, really. So, I definitely see the Rays and Yankees being that the top the winner of that series could definitely be the winner, go representing the AL in the World Series.
So we're going to get to the NL playoff race, the wild, because the AL, everything's pretty much settled in the AL. Yes, just the seeding is settled, but in the NL, you got some teams fighting for a playoff spot, and obviously you got pretty much I think 5 or 6 teams, within 2 games of each other. I mean, the Cardinals, the Marlins, the Reds, the Brewers, the Giants, and the Phillies. And my teams who I think are going to make the playoffs in the NL. Obviously, you got the Dodgers are going to make the playoffs, the Padres are going to make the playoffs, the Braves are going to make the playoffs, and the Cubs are going to make the playoffs. But I also think the Cardinals, even though they got 5 games with the Brewers this week, and those are some big games, I think they split those, but I still think the Cardinals get in. I do think the Marlins get in, even though because the Braves have everything clinched and the Yankees got everything clinched. So I think the Marlins get in. I think the Reds get in. And I also think the Brewers get in. So that'll leave the Giants on the outside looking in, and it'll leave the Phillies on the outside looking in. The Phillies pretty much did it to themselves. They have completely fallen apart, and their bullpen is absolutely terrible. So Phillies and Giants are the two teams that I have out of the playoffs. The two teams that are out of the playoffs now, those are the two teams I have out of the playoffs. They're going to be, I think, are going to be out of the playoffs after this weekend.
Yeah, I think Reds. They actually played tonight for the final time, and I know the Reds got Trevor Bauer going as well tonight. And then for the Phillies, I just heard too. I was just looking. Joe Girardi actually announced that Rhys Hodson's probably done for the season, so that really hurts them. And it was actually fun. I think it was. I don't even the guy was on camera or not, but it was the Phillies kind of post game guy, like saying that Workman should not return. They should just leave him in Tampa Bay, or they should leave him in Washington tonight. Wow. So we can bring him back with them. Wow. So they can walk home. It's been their bullpen's exploded recently, but yeah, I'm with you. I think it's the Reds and the Brewers, and the Brewers have kind of full. Even though Yelich has really struggled for most of the season.
Absolutely, it'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend with that NL playoff race. That'll be something we'll be monitoring during all the football this weekend. But we got another. We're closing the show with another huge sporting event. That's the Stanley Cup Finals between the Stars and the Lightning. And I really, unfortunately, with all the sports going on, I usually, I'm not a hockey guy. Out of the four major sports, it's a distant four out of four. But I do check out the Stanley Cup Finals because they're usually on different nights as the NBA Finals. So I usually watch the Stanley Cup Finals, but this year I really haven't been able to check with everything else going on. I really been able to, really check out much of it. I mean, right now the Stars are, so it's 1-1. The Stars won game 1, the Lightning won game 2. Justin, in your opinion, do you think the Stars could pull this upset?
I think there's a possibility because they are more fresh than the Tampa Bay Lightning right now. The first game 1, they knew Tampa was kind of coming off short rest. They were actually screaming on the bench to just hit Tampa Bay. They're just, I think they had over 50 hits. They just used the body. They had 25 in the first period. They really just, they really wanted to set the tone. And Tampa's coach was not happy at the second period. He told his guys, none of you should even need a shower because none of you have broken a sweat in this game. And they dominated the third period, 22-2 shots for the Lightning, but they didn't have enough. They bounced back in game 2. They played a lot better. I wouldn't say a lot better. They scored 3 goals in 4 minutes in the first period. 2 of them were on the power play. Dallas said they will, and on 4 shots too. So Dallas said they were going to clean that up for tonight. But I could definitely see it. Tampa's really kind of can. Stamkos is. There's a possibility he can come back tonight. He hasn't played much, so I don't know what factor.
When was the last time Stamkos played?
I think back. I don't know if he's played in the bubble. I don't.
Oh, really?
He's been out since. Yeah, I think he's been out since February. I think he. It was a leg. I think it's leg or ankle or something. He's been out, I think, since February. So I don't know what kind of factor he would even be. But just the name Steven Stamkos is a guy you kind of got to watch out for. But Tampa's there's kind of a lot of kind of got banged up a little bit here but I could see Dallas pulling it off. I think I've been saying it the last few weeks. I think this is Tampa Bay's year to win the cup. And I still think they could win this thing in 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, I picked them to win. I feel like they've been close so many times. I picked them to win. And I still think they're going to win.
Yeah, I'm same with you. I now that they got the Stanley Cup, I don't know if they'd fire John Cooper. I kind of heard the rumors that they got short of it. His job was on the line, but now I don't really know if they made the cup, but I still think Tampa should be able to get it done.
Absolutely. So that's going to wrap it up on Sports Talk with R and J. For Marco Justin D'Onofrio, I'm Steve Risser. We'll be back next week talking playoff baseball and previewing week 4 of the NFL season. Have a great weekend, everyone.